Hello, I'm Uta Müller, Ocean of Minds Media House at the Frankfurt Book Fair 2018. In front of me sits Neil Christopher from Inhabit Media. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm, as you said, Neil Christopher. I'm one of the publishers of Inhabit Media. We've been in existence since 2006. We're located in the eastern Arctic of Canada. Our head office is in Iqaluit. Our publishing house is Inuit majority Inuit-owned. Louise Flaherty is the Inuit owner, and her and I started the publishing company because there was no publishing happening in Nunavut, no trade publishing, and there was no one representing the voice and the lived experiences of people that live in the far north.
And your office is in an igloo?
No. It's a cold place, and igloos. They still use igloos for survival, but we're in a building that you'd recognize. The only thing different is in the north, because of the permafrost, the ground is permanently frozen. All the houses are on stilts, it looks like. Yeah.
And why do you live there?
I think I went up there. I went up there 22 years ago after school, finished school, and I think it's because of Jack London and stories and maybe Farley Mowat. I wanted to go to the north, and I had a plan to go for 1 year and come back down. And 22 years later, I'm still up there. So I love it up there. The wildlife, the open spaces, the weather, just feeling part of nature, and also the community, the sense of community. When people live in such a harsh environment, community becomes very close, and people take care of each other. And I kind of became adopted in the community I lived in. It's been wonderful.
And you don't have conflicts?
I don't. There's always, it's a very different culture, so it took me a while to understand it. It kind of goes at its own pace. And because the weather is so powerful, it dictates the cycles of life in a different way than it does in the south. So things change very quickly because the weather dictates, what can happen. So I had to get used to that. It's not like living in a big city where all appointments are kept and things like that. A lot of things are affected by ice conditions or weather or storm or all these kind of things. So yeah.
And you are more free than in a city or in Ottawa?
Oh, for sure, yeah. You have a real sense of freedom. As soon as you leave town, you can go for 1,000 miles and never see another person if you choose. So you're really on your own, and there's a lot fewer rules because of that. It's a freer existence for sure.
And now you have a vision for publishing.
Yeah, we've been publishing, as I said, about 12 years now, because there was nobody doing it, and no one. And I was up there originally as a teacher, and then eventually I became a professor teaching teachers, and there was nothing. We wanted the students to have education that was reflective of their culture, but there was nothing in print for them. So we started publishing Inuit authors and authors from the north that have lived there a long time. Yeah.
And the Inuits, are they very gifted?
I would say, in general, very artistic group of people, a lot more artists, singers, visual artists, performers than you would maybe find in a city, just more per capita. And also very talented storytellers, right? There's an oral tradition of storytelling. So a lot of the stories that we've been kind of publishing, some of them have never been written down before. So it was very important for us to work with the elders to gather the stories before they were lost.
Yes, please present me a book with oral history or...
Sure, so this one, and actually was illustrated by a German illustrator, German artist, who came and lived with us for a month up in the Arctic, Eva Wiedermann. This is The Orphan and the Polar Bear, and it's a traditional story about a little orphan that gets adopted by a polar bear, and the polar bear teaches the boy, takes pity on him and teaches him the skills to survive, and then brings him back and releases him into the human world. And in there, the polar bears can shape-shift between polar bear and human, and a lot of the traditional mythology you'll see mentioned in there. And this is part of kind of the oral tradition of storytelling. This story is hundreds of years old.
Please open the book.
Sure. So I'll show you here. So it's about a little boy, and You can see big expanses, him traveling on the back of a polar bear. This is the polar bear that picks him up and it teaches him how to hunt, and another polar bear starts to bully him, so he has to learn how to handle bullies, and he has to fight him off. And he's in an igloo, because the polar bear in traditional lore live like people live. They have their own igloos, and they can shape change between polar bear and human. Then finally, the polar bear drops him off and leaves him with the skills to survive. That's the gift he gives him.
I like the artwork. It's wonderful, beautiful. And here the second children book?
Yeah, Sweet as Iqaluit. This is a baby book that's done very well for us in Canada and the U.S. There's over 40,000 of these were printed. And it was the best bedtime book in the year in the U.S. several years ago. And it's basically a lullaby. It was written by an Inuit throat singer and a vocalist. And it's basically a lullaby welcoming a new child into the world. And all the animals come to visit, and they come to impart different virtues on the child. The snow buntings come and they bring something to the child, and the beluga whale and the narwhal come and gift it. So each animal comes and gives a gift to the child. It's a beautiful story, and it's often a book given to new parents. It's become like a gift book in Canada.
Fascinating. And do you have also books for teens?
Yeah, we have lots of different books. We have graphic novels, but here's a YA novel that's pretty exciting. It's written by Abigail Johnston. She's a Governor General Award winner, and she's won many awards in Canada. And this book is kind of like a Harry Potter book, but situated in the Arctic. So the boy is like becoming a shaman, so like a magician, and he gets pulled into the spirit world, and he has to fight his way back. And it's all it weaves in Inuit mythology all through the story. It's a contemporary author, but she kind of played and brought this traditional mythology into her work.
And does the book have pictures?
Yeah, it has some illustrations, black and white. I'll try and find one to show you. Yeah, so just kind of line drawings, black and white, but mostly it's just text. Just little drawings here and there. And it has stuff like traditional tattoos. You'll see evidence of all these kind of traditional aspects that you would find in the north. Yeah, just slightly illustrated.
And you go personally to the people and ask for their stories?
Yeah, we travel across the Arctic because each region has different stories. We've spent about 10 years, well actually more than that, much more like 15 years collecting stories. Because once this last generation of elders passes, whatever wasn't collected will be lost. So like the Orphan and the polar bear, this is the first time that it was written down like in a storybook. And it's important for us to do that before those stories disappear.
And do the Inuits also have schools and lectures or a university?
So there is a college, a college university up in the Arctic, and they can study all the way up and even become teachers or lawyers or nurses and stay in the Arctic. Nunavut's quite developed now. It's similar to Greenland. It's a very contemporary, modern society, but still infused with traditional values and traditional ways of life.
And do you have internet?
Yeah, we do. We have satellite internet because most of Nunavut is islands, so we don't have fiber optic, but we have satellite hookup to the internet.
And how do you distribute your books?
So we distribute our books we actually warehouse our books in southern Canada because it's so expensive to bring them to the north. So we only bring the ones that are going to be used for schools or people's houses. And we distribute, Fitzhenry and Whiteside is our distributor in southern Canada, and Consortium is our distributor in the US. And Ingram is starting to distribute internationally for us.
You have an exciting job?
Yeah, I love it. I was a university professor, and I gave that up to do this work. It's been fun.
Thank you. Fascinating. Goodbye. Uta Müller, Ocean of Minds Media House.